more media versatility. And guess what? We got our very first production that we are putting out from the LMV Production Studio. And it's introduced as the Author's Corner. Well, what is the Author's Corner? Well, it's a platform that gives our authors an opportunity to shine. Musicians get to do that, get to have interviews and shine. Movie artists get to do their thing and shine. Well, why not the authors? With this platform, the goal is to stay consistent. Very much keep it coming, right? Why not get an interview session and learn about the author and get a little bit of understanding about the book? So that way it can help with, I guess, promotion and help to sell their books, right? That's pretty nice, right? The one thing I want to have you, the viewers, take away is this is an opportunity for those authors. So what I'm asking you, the viewers, is to please watch the show and follow, like, and do me another favor, share, because I'm trying to make this big. And the authors would want that too, right? Because we need a platform for them. And you never know. You might be an author that wants to get an interview to put their book out. And this may be the platform for you. And if so, hit us up on our link. And let's discuss and see what we can do about that. Other than that, introducing the Author's Corner. I'll see y'all on the other side. Enjoy the show. Peace.
LMV Production Studio, where creativity meets innovation. Equipped with the latest technology to bring your vision to life. Our expert team of creatives ready to collaborate with you. From video reels, videos to podcasts, we do it all. Meticulous attention to detail in every phase of production. Let's create something amazing together. Contact us today and let's get started.
It's an LMV thing.
Welcome to the Author's Corner. My name is Dr. Bobby, and we're going to have some interesting things with the series that we're bringing to you from the Author's Corner. And I tell you, I'm excited about this, and really I'm excited about today, because today when we're talking about Beyond 66, my book, but I'm so excited to have my best friend and author also, Dr. Michael Collins. And I want to introduce him because he's here to introduce me and to actually interview me concerning my book. Boy, I guess it's going to be exciting.
Yes. This is an awesome thing that we're doing today. God bless all of you out there. I'm sitting here with Dr. Bobby G. McAllister and talking about Beyond 66, his book. This is a powerful book, and I'm just so excited to get into it and just ask you some questions concerning, so you could just let us know about your personal story.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to know, why Beyond 66? Why did you name it that?
You know, that's an interesting question, because one of the reasons why it's Beyond 66, I graduated high school in 1966. And one of the things that I wanted to do, because talking about forward MLK, we're actually talking about going forward beyond the dream that Martin Luther King had. Now, 1966, the reason I said 1966, because my desire and purpose in 1966 was to change the world. I was excited about it and not knowing that that was God's purpose also. And the Lord wanted to change the world. And that was also the vision that was given to America. And so coupled together beyond 66, moving forward with MLK, I think it brings us into the presence of where we are now.
Wow, that's very interesting because you said that at that time you wanted to change the world. You believe that you had the power. Can you believe he had the power to change the world because God had put the desire in you? You thought it was your desire, right, but God's desire for you, he put that desire in you, and that's what was motivating you to bring about a change.
Absolutely. I was actually 12 years old, and at 12 years old, I watched, because we were raised on a farm, and I watched my dad respond to the farm owner's son. And I looked and I saw that this wasn't right. And I promised the Lord at 12 years old, I said, God, if you give me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, I'll give my life to make a difference. And that's when it started. So after 1966, I actually moved to New York City. And because at that time, I thought James Brown was the only one who had enough money to help me change the world. So I went to New York and I was looking around, and the other thing is I not only wanted to change the world, but I was wondering, how did we get to where we are? I didn't understand slavery. I wanted to know, how did we get to the place that I saw at 12 years old? And now I'm asking the question, and I have some answers now, how we got here.
Wow.
So that started my trust. I thought that slavery was about black and white.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And it really was about black and white. But the reason being is because America, having a democracy, it required that they have slaves.
Ah, that's interesting as well. Because they needed someone to do the labor. And so at 12 years old, you understood that something was wrong with that picture?
I saw that. I saw that. And all actually working up to this book, I wanted to write a book on slavery. Really, I wanted to write a book about slavery, but God wouldn't let me write that book until I wrote the book Transitional Reality.
Uh-huh.
In other words, the Lord had to deal with me before he would let me deal with the issue.
Wow.
Because transition reality was a conversion from where I was, bringing me into God giving me a position to actually speak to the issue. So the next book I wrote was Scales of Justice. And on the book, I said, Scales of Justice will prevail. But then the person that did the forward of the book wrote it, says it has prevailed. So it caused me to take another look at that picture. And I found out that slavery, even though it used black and white in the issue, it was really about economics.
Wow. So everything points back to money.
Absolutely.
So it was interesting in your book, you said that, you have this passion, and you said it's beyond 66. So you graduated high school in 1966.
Absolutely.
And then, you said that you moved to
New
York,
and
you worked several jobs. And what, it was some life-changing things that happened to you. There was 3 things that were so important that happened to you according to your book. Can you explain those 3 things?
Yeah, three of the things that happened to me that I knew that I didn't want to experience. One is I got in trouble when I was 15. I ended up going to jail, but that back then it was juvenile, so they turned me over to my parents. Then whenever I graduated school, I went to join the Marine Corps. And because I'd gotten in trouble at 15, they turned me down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking to myself, well, if I go somewhere else, I won't tell them. So I got a job at Winn-Dixie Warehouse in 1966, making $6.50 an hour.
Wow.
A lot of money then.
Wow.
And so I was actually fired.
Mm.
And the reason being is I did not put that I got in trouble at 15, and they fired me because they felt like I was dishonest.
Wow. So you experienced jail,
Yep.
rejection,
Yep.
and being fired.
Absolutely. At 18.
Wow. How did that impact your decisions from that point on? Because you're on a journey beyond 66 at this point.
Absolutely. It actually caused me to feel like I was a failure before I started.
Mm.
And I never could figure out how in the world was I going to get out of this dilemma. So then I moved to New York. And when I moved to New York, I ended up getting several part-time jobs. And what was exciting to me is when I went to New York, I could buy a job.
What? Explain that. Explain that. Explain that.
You know, they had these, these agencies that would get you a job and you'd pay for them. And so I was astounded because I'd never heard of such a thing. So make a long story short, I ended up working at the Ideal Toy Factory, short while, Esquire shoe polishing place for a short time, John F. Kennedy Airport for a short time. And the last place I worked at was Superior Auto Electric as a spray painter. And I remember coming back home and it was cold. And I told the Lord, I said, Lord, you know, at that time, I wasn't really thinking about the Lord, but somebody told me if you call on the Lord. I said, Lord, if you get me out of here, I'll give my life and I'll serve you forever. So with that, I went down to the recruiter and I told the recruiter, I want to go in and I want to join the military and I want to become airborne infantry.
Wow.
That's what I told him. And the reason I said airborne infantry, because I know that they needed infantry. I didn't know nothing about the war, really. And I figured if they needed somebody to jump out of planes, if they needed somebody to be in the infantry, then they would probably not find out that I went to jail. So I ended up swearing in, and I was shocked that they accepted me. And I turned around and I said, oh my God. I went through basic, I went to AIT, I went to airborne school, and in airborne school, we were given 10 days before we were shipped out to Vietnam.
Wow.
So here I am, 18, 19 years old, in the military airborne infantry, jumped out of the first plane I ever rode in. The first 5 plane rides I had, I jumped out and with my qualifying jumps for airborne school.
Wow.
I ended up with the 173rd Infantry Brigade, and I actually was part of the replacement for Hill 875 and Hill 600, which was the 10th offense.
Oh.
And so in experiencing that, I thought this is unique. And this is why I talk about I was in the 82nd, I was in the 101st, I was in the 193rd Infantry Brigade, I was in the 25th Infantry Division. So I was all in elite units. Mm-hmm. And so in doing that, the highlight of one of the things that I wanted was now that I'm in the military, and I remember getting to the age of, the grade of E6. Uh-huh. And at that time, I was a chemical operational specialist, CBR guy. And I ended up working at S2 and getting ready to go to the promotion board. And all of a sudden I realized they're gonna run a security clearance on me.
Ah,
So
fear came in.
absolutely. But I was an honest, if you want, honest moral guy as much as I knew.
All right.
So I went to my boss and I says, Sergeant Archibald, I got something I got to tell you. And he says, what's that? I said, well, when I came in the military, I lied.
Have you ever felt like life setbacks were holding you back from your purpose? Too many people allow past failures, disappointments, and obstacles to define their future, never realizing that their greatest challenges may be preparing them for their greatest calling. That's why Dr. Bobby McAllister wrote Beyond 66. In this powerful and inspiring book, Dr. Bobby shares his personal journey through adversity, military service, faith, leadership, and life-changing experiences that shaped his vision for impacting others. Beyond 66 is more than a memoir. It's a roadmap for anyone seeking purpose, perseverance, and the courage to keep moving forward when life gets difficult. Through authentic stories and practical wisdom, you'll discover how obstacles can become opportunities and how your vision can extend far beyond what you ever imagined. If you're ready to be inspired, challenged, and empowered to pursue your destiny, then Beyond 66 is the book for you. Get your copy today and discover why your story doesn't end with where you've been. It begins with where God is taking you, Beyond 66. Because your vision should always go beyond the limits others place on your life.
I said, what? I said I hadn't been in trouble, but I did. And he says, oh. He says, I'll tell you what, you go down and make a long story short, wrote it all up. We put in for a waiver. And they actually took my military experience, duty, and military records and used it as a documental understanding that I had been rehabilitated.
Wow. That is so I can see God in that, right? I can see the hand of God in that, because all of this time you're still carrying a seed. I'm going to change the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, even though things that don't even look like you've been rejected.
Yes.
You going to jail. You've been fired. You're now facing possible a rejection again.
Right.
But you carrying the seed.
Still had the vision. Still wanted to change the world. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And so when I saw that, I really, so I got the waiver and I ended up leaving. At that time, I was at the Panama Canal Zone and I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. And then when I went in, I wanted to be an airborne instructor. Wow. And I went and I went to see the sergeant major, and two things he told me. He says, if you want a job here, you got to cut your hair. At that time, we was there in afros, and you got to
mustache.
Cut your mustache. Now, it took me 20 years to grow a mustache.
Wow.
Now I got to cut it and cut my hair to get a job, but it's the best thing I ever did. Mm-hmm. Because when I went in to be an airborne instructor, it taught me an extended understanding of discipline, excellence, and literally put me in a situation that I had to train people from a position of a deaf experience. In other words, when I talked to them, I had to talk to them with the understanding this is life or death.
Wow.
But all of this is actually preparing me for ministry.
Because this is your life.
This is my life.
This, we're talking about beyond, with Dr. Bobby here, beyond 66. And we're understanding your life, the journey that you had, and some of the experience, how you got to where you are today. Mm-hmm. And you had an opportunity to train one of the first female, second female, and then the first one that would be in jump school, right?
Yeah, well, I actually trained her, the second female that was in airborne school, and the 100th graduate.
Wow.
And the first honor graduate.
First honor graduate.
Yeah. And so with that, I ran into a situation too, because first of all, I'm black, she's white, she's quiet, and I don't know why she is, and she's from Missouri.
Uh-huh.
So what I ended up, because I had to teach her how to do the presentation in the airborne school, and I sort of had to break it down and ask her, what have people told you about black people?
Ah, wow.
And then we build a conversation. But I had to build that bridge to gain her confidence, to train her, and she became an outstanding presentator because we hurdled that. So in understanding how we go from beyond 6 to 6, God had to deal with me with how you deal with going to jail, how you deal with being honest, how you deal with the different races, and even how you deal with females that was in a profession that nobody wanted. So the truth is that after I trained her, then I ended up going from there, and I ended up going on recruiting.
Wow. Before we get to recruiting,
Go.
can we talk about, your experience when you went into Vietnam, right? And I read in your book that if you saw a mountain or a hill, what was your motto?
We won't stop till we reach the top.
We won't stop till we reach the top.
Right. And so when we got up in the morning, now here's what I experienced in Vietnam, and people don't realize that's the reason why I'm wearing what I'm wearing now. Because I want people to understand that the enlisted people in the military really don't get all the credibility they really deserve, because they are the experts. So I lived in the jungle in Vietnam.
Wow.
Matter of fact, out of the 11 months that I was in Vietnam, we probably came to the rear area about 4 times. We lived in the jungle, and we would wake up in the morning and we look off, and the highest mountain that we saw, we knew that's where we had to be before we could go to sleep. We walked everywhere we went.
Wow.
So I was actually in combat, and that's why I wear a combat infantry badge. I was actually an expert in jump school. That's why I master parachutist badge.
Wow.
I was in the 101st Air Assault Brigade. I didn't even need that award because I had nowhere to put it on my uniform. But the reason I did is because if I had to send troops to the school, I had to go first.
Wow.
So the other thing is the Pathfinder. I didn't really want Pathfinder, but I wanted to be excellent in all I did, and I did that. But Vietnam taught me that if you can endure this, then this is what's going to fortify you to go beyond 6 to 6.
Wow.
Because you got to go through the obstacles of things that people never thought of. I actually experienced things that I literally studied them. I studied them to see how they function so I could understand how to deal with them once we were going to bring a balance to life. In the 101st, I ended up being the enlisted commandant of the correctional custody facility. And in all actuality, I ended up understanding that I had to understand how you deal with people that get in trouble and help them recover.
So how did your experience going to jail as a 15-year-old help you in that, being able to help and understand those that was getting in trouble and needed a fresh and new start and opportunity?
I think one of the things that it caused me to realize, and I think people ought to realize this, when you start talking about 13 to 16-year-old, their minds are not developed. And I think sometimes we might punish them greater than they can comprehend.
Wow. That's pretty profound.
13 years old, I couldn't think right. Nobody has instructed me that way. So when I see this generation of young people, and everybody blaming them, but the truth of the matter is, when I went to jail, what it did for me was cause me to know I don't want my life this way all my life. And I remember something that I got in a fight when I was younger, and my daddy said something to me. He says, Bob, if you want to fight, won't you join the army?
Mm-hmm.
So that was seed.
Wow.
So I joined the army. But what I've learned in the progression of what I walked through, I learned that we are the answer. And if you've had an experience, your experience was for you to be able to relate it to one another. Now, when we start talking about Beyond 66, I was on a mountaintop in 1968 when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And in 1968, I asked the Lord, no, I didn't ask the Lord then, but I was on the mountaintop in South Vietnam, and I was served with 4 whites, 4 blacks, and we were called the Hellcats.
Hellcats.
Oh, yeah. If we went somewhere, it was going to be hell because the cats are on the scene.
Gotta take them out, John.
We were going to take them out. So I learned how to interact with the races, and the day I found out that Martin Luther King had been assassinated, Weisenbar said to me, you can't go out on ambush tonight, because he saw how I was affected by it.
Wow.
And what he was actually saying is, I don't want you to go out because you really don't have your mindset and you could get in trouble, get killed, and get somebody else. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll go out in your place, and when it's your time to go out, you can go out in my place.
Something good gonna happen in this year, and I am grateful that I made it here. Yesterday's gone and a new day has appeared, and I am grateful that I made it here. Blessings gonna find me here. Oh yeah. Favor gonna find me here. Oh yeah.
This was a white guy sacrificing to go out and ambush for me. That's how we work together.
Wow.
So I later asked the Lord in 1990. I went to Fort Bragg and to get a good night's sleep. And when I was in Fort Bragg, the Lord woke me up. It was a Tuesday morning. And I asked the Lord, why was I in Vietnam when Martin was assassinated? And his words to me is, I have preserved thee.
Wow.
I said, you have preserved me? He said, we must do it again. I said, do what, God? He says, the civil rights movement was a practical application of what the church must do.
Wow. Like,
So all of that was part of the vision. So when the Lord was talking to me, the first thing he said, my prophet, Martin Luther. God called him a prophet. And he says, we lost the musicians, we lost the arts, but we won't lose them this time. And I began to realize, now, God, you preserved me. And in the book Scales of Justice, I outlined that. But in the book Beyond 66, I really take it from the mountaintop. I've been to the mountaintop. People don't realize the mountaintop declaration of Dr. Martin Luther King was a prophetic word of how we're going to go forward after the dream is fulfilled. So what he said, that God has allowed him to look over and see the promised land.
right.
And I believe what he caused them to see was a people. So it calls us to see that. And I think also It's the same place where Paul was caught up into the third heaven and heard words he couldn't even articulate or utter. So what we really have to understand now is until we embrace the kingdom, until we get beyond the fear of death, we won't push beyond 1968. So what the Lord really was saying to me, I was safer in a war zone than I would have been in America.
Wow. And also, I see a correlation between Martin Luther saying, I've been to the mountaintop.
Right.
And you saying that you was on the mountaintop in Vietnam.
Absolutely.
Can you share a little bit about that correlation? And then you're saying that your motto was, I won't stop until I get to
reach the top.
Reach the top.
So I'm still reaching for the top in everything I did. So what you see is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. continues to allude in his speeches that the scales of justice must continue to prevail in all aspects of life and liberty in the following excerpt. And so one of the things that I go into and I outline that in the proclamation. And as I've been to the mountaintop, I don't think people have heard what that really says. Because what it really says is that he was speaking to a people that were going to take it to another level.
Yes, yes.
I remember when I was at a SNP meeting in Raleigh, North Carolina.
At True Blue Home Services of North Wilmington, we keep your home running smoothly inside and out. From handyman repairs and seasonal maintenance to senior home safety upgrades, our trusted background checked professionals are here to help. Whether it's a one-time project or our quarterly home care plan, you get reliable service, clear communication, and peace of mind every time. Call today for a free consultation.
At Shaw University, where I met Harold Belafonte and Danny Glover. And they were actually saying, I'm glad you all are celebrating us, but I'm appalled that I don't hear a vision about what you all going to do. He was upset. So that's why I bring into view the understanding that 5 days before Martin Luther King was assassinated, and they had just finished a Poor People's Campaign, and they came into Harold Belafonte's house, and he looked at Martin and he says, Martin, it seems like something is troubling you. He says, Harry, I've got a thought I can't share. He said, I believe we're going to get our human rights. I believe we're going to get our civil rights, and I believe we're going to get our voting rights. He said, but I'm sorely afraid that we've integrated into a burning house.
Wow. Wow.
So what I'm trying to communicate now, the reason why I want to bring the book forward, and the reason why people got to understand, you can have me, the book, but you must have the vision.
So since you said about the vision, right, what is America really you see as America's real problem?
What I see in America is two things primarily. One is without a vision.
Without a vision.
How do we have a whole nation and don't have a vision? Every time I ask people about the vision, they tell me about the Constitution. But a businessman knows you without a Constitution, without a vision, you can't have a Constitution and bylaws.
Wow.
So we got a whole nation that have never been told the vision of America. And beyond 66, I talk about the vision of America and how we're going to move into the mountaintop, because Scripture speaks of mountain as kingdom.
Wow, yes, yes.
So Jesus had already said, seek first the kingdom. So it says, if we're going to go beyond 66, we must go to the mountain, embrace the kingdom of God, because it's the only reality that is in existence now, and that's how we're going to go forward.
So you're saying that everything that America does is going to fail until we return to the vision that God gave.
Absolutely. You must return to the vision because it must be a catalyst vision. And a catalyst vision is a vision that's large enough so it's inclusive, and it has a space for everybody's vision. Your vision, my vision, America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and all nations can find their place under the vision that the angel of the Lord gave George Washington, and it will take us beyond 66. That's where we are now. I thank you.
Hallelujah.
Thank you for joining me.
Hallelujah.
Thank you for challenging and communicating with me. And I say, thank you for being with me.
My honor, sir. My honor. God bless you all.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in on the Author's Corner, because now we want to say that we're going to have other authors. And after this, we're going to interview him. He has a book. And all of the books going to interrelate, and we're going to talk about the things that's relevant for us and have authors that can share things that's excellent for you at the Author's Corner.
He didn't say what was bound in heaven would be bound in earth, but he said whatever that is bound in the earth shall be bound in heaven. In other words, God comes in agreement with my word. Whatever you say is what you gonna get.
The presence of the Lord is in this place right now.